It's definitely empowering the nanny state, and it is infuriating for people who want to have their own voice and their own empowerment and not to be overridden by some coastal elite in Delaware who not only doesn't care about you, but specifically tries to exercise her unelected power to go against your wishes in what you would like to be done with what you own personally.
One of the questions I have is, and this is sort of one of my fears, and maybe help me walk through this. So I view a no vote on his compensation package. So this is a compensation package that was brought forward in 2018 that had different tranches that had to be hit from a P&L perspective, so profit and loss perspective, and then also from a market cap perspective for the stock. And then all of those were hit in subsequent years, which opened up this $55 billion compensation package in form of options or whatever, the complications there. But essentially, targets were hit, and then it was approved in 2018, okay? And then a judge said no. So help me understand how a no vote on the compensation package, let's say Plan C comes to fruition, and investors do end up voting no on a plan that was already passed in 2018. How would that not create a situation where Elon says, why should I work for a company where in the investor base approves it one day, but then disapproves it the other day, and I basically work for free for 6 days? Walk me through that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that would be the human thing to do, right? I mean, something like that would happen to me. An employer, I mean, I'm self-employed, but an employer would suddenly, tell me that the bonus that was promised is not coming, or the salary that was, the deal that we'd reached is now, I've done my part and they're not doing theirs. The initial reaction would be stuff it and let me go, right? That's it. I don't think for Elon it's a good option, and I don't think he wants to do that. The issue is, if he leaves, so what? I mean, he still has 13% of Tesla. It's still his baby. I mean, I understand that, there may be other shiny companies out there that he likes to work on, but he is the outstanding entrepreneur who made Tesla what Tesla is, and he doesn't want to see that go. And one of the arguments actually Tesla Q brings up, and they're exaggerating the impact, but some of his Tesla shares are pledged. Remember when he did the Twitter deal, the Twitter purchase, he needed to take out loans. So there is, there's also financial incentive for him to not just let go, let the stock crash, because then, he's the biggest loser in that game. So I don't think that's going to happen. But I think he has to have good counsel explaining to him that the important part is moving to Texas and then restarting a compensation package and restarting voting rights. I don't think for Elon this was ever about money. I think this was on impact of his person on Tesla and all his other companies, but also on humanity and the world. So he wouldn't have that impact if he would just, leave and let it go. So for me, that's just not a scenario that's even an option. And if you read the proxy carefully and you see how they are preparing for the Texas redomestication, because there are like chapters and chapters and chapters on it, it is clear that they've really thought it through how to make his position comfortable there. And that's why I just want to make so sure, if Texas doesn't pass this time, there is no limit on the revotes we can do to get this passed. There's a lot of homework to be done to have better voting conditions, but we will get to Texas. And once we are there, he will have the 25% voting rights, and he will have new compensation packages.
So I feel like I remember several years ago, there was a proposal by the board. I think, was it maybe to change the length of tenure of the board members, that we kind of ran into the same issue where we weren't able, even though the majority of votes that were cast were in favor of the board's proposal, it wasn't able to pass because we didn't have a sufficient number of shares voted in the vote. Is that essentially what we're looking at being the likely culprit of this not passing if, for the redomestication to Texas?
Yeah. The point we had, I think I remember, it was they wanted to go down from their current 3-year rhythm of revoting to a 1-year rhythm. I don't remember, but it was one of those basic questions that are that are addressing the bylaws, the big lines of the bylaws that Tesla has written 2006, 2005, whenever it was. So when you want to change those big things, you need a higher quorum of participants in the vote. And if you don't reach that quorum, then the whole vote doesn't matter because it's not eligible to be taken into account. So yes, that is what we're running against with the Texas vote. I mean, the Texas vote, the quorum is now defined by this TripAdvisor case, but the same thing could happen. I think that Martin, who always announces the outcome, will say we didn't have the quorum for the Texas redomestication. So that will mean we'll just, represent that at another time, and we'll have the results for Kimball and James Murdoch and the compensation package and all that. And I'm very confident in all the other items. Because for those, the quorum is the group is just the casted votes. There you don't have this issue of outstanding shares.
So there's a real possibility that if, there were some institutional shareholders that voted no, that could actually help us if it got us past the quorum necessary to have a sufficient number of votes, as long as the majority still voted yes.
Well, exactly. I mean, the Texas vote is a very precise thing, because it's the only item in the whole list of the 12 questions where non-participating entities in the vote are counted as no. So whether an institutional votes no or just doesn't vote, it's the same no. Whether somebody in Germany can't vote, it's the same no. It's a non-vote, but it counts as a no. But that's only true for the Texas redomestication.
So the net percentage of the float has to vote yes over 50%.
Exactly. So we have 3.189 billion shares outstanding. So just short of 1.6 billion shares have to vote yes to Texas redomestication. That is it. And you may not even have 1.6 billion shares participating, and they all have to be yes. That's why we're fighting for everyone. And the 400 and something shares that Elon and Kimball have can participate in this 1.6 billion. So we're about 1.17, I think I calculated it, that have to vote yes, that we have to find.
What are you hearing from the retail investors? And I'm also curious to see, are you hearing anything from institutionals as well? Like, what's the overall vibe on this thing?
From institutions, we don't hear a lot. We obviously heard CalPERS's spokesperson. I mean, I think she's the CEO of CalPERS, who was on CNBC and who said they intend to vote no, but they're still waiting for a meeting with Tesla. So I hope that Robin Denholm or whoever is in charge of them, because, I mean, this is a team effort. They are all working. The board members are jetting around the world and trying to convince people. So I haven't given up on that yet. And I think, they're not in an easy position. I mean, there is no other techno king CEO as outspoken and controversial as Elon, and they now suddenly have to defend that and have to make sure that people understand this is about Tesla shares and not about Elon's persona. So they have a tough job. So I don't know anything about institutions. And please do know this is only partially true for international investors, but US and Canadians who are voting on proxy vote, they can change their vote up till midnight on June the 12th. So there could still be some movement. So it's not because we know somebody voted for or against that this is the final casted vote, because there's still possibility to change it. And that's actually another thing, good thing that reminds me of, is some people inadvertently publish their control numbers. The control number is what lets you vote on proxy vote. Anybody that then knows that control number can actually alter your vote. So I urge everybody who had made that mistake of publishing their control numbers to go back on the 12th of June and check that their original votes are still casted the way they wanted them. But to say all that, there is no prognostics. I mean, Broadridge on their corporate website says they're keeping their companies updated. So Tesla must know what is currently in the ballots. But obviously a Vanguard with 7% is going to be a game changer. Elon followed the CFO of BlackRock. That gives me a lot of peace and love, right? That gives me a good feeling. Obviously ARK, but ARK only has 5 million shares left. They had 20 million at one point. Ron Barron is on CNBC tomorrow morning. So I think there is a lot of institutional support. Now, also do know that in 2018, when the original vote was casted, it was 70% institutionals and 30% retail let me recall, now we're down to 52.5 to 47.5. So institutions have decreased, and we retail have increased a lot by more than 50%. So then it passed with 73%. Albeit you heard a lot of institutions say before, we're never going to vote for it, never going to do it. You had Glass Lewis, you had ISS, everybody saying, don't vote for it, don't vote for it. And yet it passed with 70%. So I think money managers are profoundly capitalistic. And I also know that quite a lot of them are in Delaware and are domesticated in Delaware. They're sitting in Chicago or in New York or wherever, in Boston, but they have their LLCs or their corps in Delaware, and they must not like what's happening at the moment. I mean, this is a blow to anybody that has, a good sense of capitalism in their veins. So I still think we will have the majority of institutions. There will be some players. Nordea is one of the Nordic that has already signed with the Good Sisters of I don't know what, that they're going to vote against. The New York controller is against it. So and obviously CalPERS. So you have some political motivated entities, ESG motivated entities that will vote against. But I'm still quite confident. On the retail side, we know that Leo Kogan said he's going to vote no, and he has rallied a couple of people around him. But that is less than 1%, right? CalPERS is less than 1/3%. So if you think about it, we are the strongest force in here, us retail investors. We just need to be organized. And again, I mean, we did what we could for this vote in a very, very short span of time, in a couple of weeks. If this doesn't pass, we will have more time to assemble and structure this better and make sure this works. I mean, the pressure is now on the banks and on all these proxy vote organizers.
Yeah, I think the thing that's been toughest for me to get my head wrapped around, and again, one of the things about media and social media is like, the minorities always have outsized megaphone influence, because that's what social media and media is designed to do, is to bring the most controversial takes forward. And so, but one of the things that I can't get my head wrapped around is how folks that have voted yes in the past vote no now. Like if you voted no before and you vote no now, great. I mean, at least like you are consistent. But if you voted yes before and you vote no now, anyway, I don't want to go on a rant because I go on a rant for the last 10 minutes of this podcast.
I want to go in that rant because usually it is butthurt people, and I want to say that. And I know I'll get a lot of hate for saying it, but it is. I
agree with you.
It is really people that have other issues with Elon and that feel like a revenge moment they finally have been waiting for, and now their power is to vote no. They're actually hurting themselves. Remember, only people that held stock on the 15th of April can vote. So if these people still hold stock, well, they're actually hurting themselves. The other thing is only people that held stock on the 15th of April in the proportion of their holdings. Some people understand that, everybody has one vote. No. Leo Kogan has a bigger vote than my vote. Of course, it is proportional to the shares you have. So some of the outspoken people out there, first of all, may not have stock or may have very little stock, but still, use the megaphone they have on social media. So honestly, of the bigger ones I know of, they're there. They're standing like a man. I am surprised at how this retail army of people are determined to make Elon stay, make him feel good, want to show their support. I'm really surprised by that. And of course, there's some outspoken people.
Yeah, it's been a little bit of a confusing time because, a lot of the things you hear in the media are related to, like you said, that, less than 1% of the influence on the vote, they come on CNBC or whatever, and they talk about how they're going to vote no, so on and so forth. But it feels like there is a silent majority of people that are pro-capitalism, that do understand that, potentially the way, like I'll just speak about my own sort of where I come from on this, the mistakes, quote unquote, let's call them mistakes that were made in the comp package in 2018 to me seem administrative and clerical more than anything. They're Correct. Not actually fundamental to the plan itself. It's based on numbers.
Of course,
Nobody was misled. And so when I read that or hear that from people that, especially that voted yes before and voted no now, to me, it feels like it's much more politically motivated, or it's irrational or emotionally driven because of words that were said on social media by the CEO, and less about the actions and the execution of the company. And that makes my blood boil, to be completely honest. But it's probably the very few minority.
It's definitely empowering the nanny state, and it is infuriating for people who want to have their own voice and their own empowerment, and not to be overridden by some coastal elite in Delaware who not only doesn't care about you, but specifically tries to exercise her unelected power to go against your wishes in what you would like to be done with what you own personally.